All right, today we're jumping into a real scientific detective story. Our case involves a pretty mysterious creature, a team of dedicated scientists, and a critical clue that was hidden in a very, very unexpected place. This is the central question facing conservationists all over the world. I mean, when a species is in trouble, but its basic biology is a total black box, where do you even start? That's the exact problem that kicked off this whole investigation.
So, let's meet the star of our show, the main character in this whole mystery, a tiny Australian creature that's just as elusive as it is unique.
So, this little guy, this is the Kultarr, a small marsupial from the arid zones of inland Australia. Now, it's a dasyurid, which means it's in the same family as the Tasmanian devil and the quoll, but as you can see, it's a whole different ballgame. Now, here's the file on our subject. It's tiny, right? Weighing only about as much as a few sugar cubes. It hunts insects and other invertebrates out there in the desert. But here's the catch. Its home turf is shrinking, and scientists have realized there are these huge gaps in our knowledge. We know a bit about how it moves, a little about how it handles temperature, but the really fundamental stuff, like how it processes food, almost a complete mystery. And you just can't build a solid conservation plan on a foundation of maybes.
So, with the clock ticking, scientists decided to zoom in on one single fundamental process, one that could give them a crucial clue for their investigation.
They started asking a really simple but kind of profound question. What if the secret is hidden right in its gut? If an animal's entire life is built around finding and processing energy, food, then understanding its digestive system is like finding the blueprints for its survival.
So the key thing they honed in on was this: rate of passage. It sounds technical, but it's actually super simple. Think of it as the speed a meal takes to get from the front door all the way to the back. This one piece of data could tell them a ton about the Kultarr's energy needs and how efficient it is.
Okay, so how on earth do you actually clock the digestive speed of a teeny tiny 25-gram marsupial? Well, it turns out it involves a pretty clever setup and, you guessed it, some mealworms.
The experiment itself was just elegant. They took 8 Kultarrs, gave them a meal of minced beef, which they happily eat in captivity. But here's the twist. They snuck a little marker inside the food. And then, it was just a waiting game. They collected samples every single hour and looked at them under a microscope, searching for the very first sign of that marker. And this is where it gets really clever. The marker they chose was mealworm cuticle, the tough outer shell of the insect. It's a natural part of what they eat, but it's also completely indigestible, so it just passes right through the system, acting like a tiny biological GPS tracker for the entire meal. Super smart, right? So with this little tracker in place, they could measure 2 really key things. The first one is called transit time. You can think of this as the stopwatch measurement. From the exact moment the Kultarr eats the marked food to the very first second that marker shows up on the other side. It's basically the top speed.
The second, and you could argue it's even more important, is the mean retention time. This gives you the whole story. It's not just about the first little piece to cross the finish line, but the average time all the little food particles spent on their journey through the gut. So after all that careful feeding and all that patient collection and hours hunched over a microscope, the detectives finally had their evidence. The numbers were in. So, what did they find out? Just how fast is this little desert engine running? You ready for this? The first result was just wow. The transit time, that's the first appearance of the marker, was just 1.6 hours. I mean, for an animal to process a meal and have it show up in under 2 hours, that is incredibly fast. And then came the mean retention time. On average, food particles spent just under 4 hours, 3.9 to be exact, inside the Kultarr's gut. Now, these were literally the first data points of their kind ever recorded for this animal. But what do they actually mean?
Right, because a number by itself is really just a number. To get what it means, you've got to compare it to something. So how does our little Kultarr stack up against its relatives in other small mammals?
So, let's ask it plainly. Is 1.6 hours actually fast? Well, to figure that out, we need to put it in context. And the evidence? It shows that for a small, insect-eating mammal like this one, speed is definitely the name of the game.
Okay, so check out this chart. It puts the Kultarr right next to some of its cousins. And you can see a really clear pattern, right? The super tiny planigale is lightning fast at half an hour. The slightly larger dunnart is 1.3 hours.
Our Kultarr fits right in there at 1.6 hours, and the much larger Antechinomys is slower at 3 hours. Its digestive speed is exactly what you'd expect for an animal of its size and diet. It just fits perfectly. So the big question is, why? Why is it so fast? And the answer is actually in its anatomy. The Kultarr has a really simple, straightforward gut. And you can see here in this comparison, it's missing a little pouch called a coccyx. Other animals, like the house mouse, use a coccyx to hold food longer to squeeze out more nutrients. Without that little holding bay, the Kultarr's food just zips right through. Its transit time is nearly twice as fast as the mouse's.
Okay, so we've figured it out. The Kultarr has a fast, simple digestive system. But so what? Why does this one tiny biological detail matter so much?
This right here, this is the whole point. This study wasn't just about getting a number. It was about laying a foundation. For the first time ever, we have actual data on how this animal processes energy. It confirms its gut is perfectly built for a high-energy insect diet, and maybe most importantly, it gives us a vital baseline. Now conservationists working on captive breeding programs know what a healthy digestive timeline looks like. They can make better diets and keep a better eye on their health. This one small clue helps unlock the basic needs of a species we really need to understand better.
And that kind of leaves us with this final thought, right? This whole journey started with a really simple question about a tiny animal's gut. But the answer, it gave us a crucial piece of the conservation puzzle. It just makes you wonder, for all the other mysteries out there in the natural world, how many other solutions are just hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone to ask the right question.